Hi everybody, Bryan Norcross here with the 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central Time update on Tropical Storm Beryl. Tropical Storm Beryl is still forecast to be Hurricane Beryl when it arrives at the Texas coast on Monday. Hurricane warnings now in effect for the good part of the Texas coast. Tropical storm warnings for the rest of the coast. Storm surge warnings in effect as well. So the impacts are coming into focus here, and it's time for folks on the Texas coast to get ready for the possibility, or for the likelihood actually, of a hurricane coming their way beginning tomorrow. Late tomorrow, the weather will start deteriorating. Here we are at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central. There you see 60-mile-an-hour winds is still the estimate. Hurricane hunters have not been in there since the last advisory at 2 p.m., so we're waiting on their arrival, and you'll have an update at 8 p.m. On the winds, and the pressure was estimated at that time 997. So Hurricane Center just staying with that. The satellite estimates say it is moving at now 13 miles per hour to the northwest. Now, there's some question exactly where the low-level center is. We see that there's clearly a cluster of thunderstorms around the center, but it looks like there are two centers, one in the middle part of the atmosphere and one down at the surface, that are not quite aligned. And what you're seeing here is probably the mid-level center where those thunderstorms are. Let's go close up here, and where we can see like a photograph from space, and we see this turning of the clouds right in there. So exactly how that's related to the low-level center, which is the one that we really track and the one that we create a cone for, that's the low-level center and where it's going. So exactly where that is takes the hurricane hunters going in there to be absolutely sure. But in any case, it's in that general area there, and it's heading in the direction of the central or north central coast of Texas. Corpus Christi or north looks like are the best chances right now, and we'll look at that in more detail here. All right, here's the cone, and you can see that the Hurricane Center is continuing with the same line of thinking, that through the night tonight the system will get more and more organized. We're already seeing it consolidating around that cluster of thunderstorms near what appears to be the center. So that'll happen tonight, and normally when it gets cooler at night, then there's more opportunity for the thunderstorms to blossom, because the Gulf water temperature doesn't get cooler, but the atmosphere gets cooler, so you get more lift in the atmosphere and you create more thunderstorms. So that will happen overnight tonight. The idea is that by tomorrow afternoon, this will be a hurricane, a beam somewhere of Brownsville, 75-mile-an-hour hurricane at that point. It might become a hurricane a little before that, but in any case, by that time, tomorrow afternoon, it will be a hurricane in this vicinity, according to the forecast. Then moving north, offshore or near Corpus Christi, an 85-mile-an-hour hurricane. So if all that works out to be exactly right, the idea would be that the storm would come ashore at 85 miles per hour nominally if it were to stay on the left side of the cone. But if it were to go to the right side of the cone and come up closer to Metro Houston, it would be over the water longer. So we would expect a stronger hurricane, because the atmospheric conditions look pretty ideal, as a matter of fact, over the western Gulf for intensification, and conducive would be the word for intensification and organization. So the farther south it goes on the coast, the weaker the storm. The farther north it goes, the stronger the storm would be the thinking here. So we want everybody that is up in the Sargent, Freeport, Sargent, up into Metro Houston to be very aware of this. And as you'll see, there are storm surge watches in effect, tropical storm warnings in effect for Metro Houston. So it's not like Metro Houston's out of the woods, but right now the focus is a little farther south, but the entire massive Houston area is on the right side of the cone, where the winds will be coming on shore, and the strongest winds will be occurring on that right side of the system, depending on where it comes in. And obviously, if it were to deviate to the right side of the cone, then Metro Houston would all be in some of the strongest winds and heaviest rain and so forth, storm surge with this storm. So we're just keeping that in mind. And anytime a storm is just getting organized, then it could redevelop just a little bit over there or a little bit over there, which throws the whole cone off in terms of where its origination point is. So that can move things until the storm really gets organized and we really have a point to say that's the center of the storm. Then the cone can still shift around as the models will shift around. But that's where we are right now. And notice that the idea is that once it comes ashore, be on a line between near Sargent over to near San Antonio, 70-mile-an-hour winds, again, depending on where it comes ashore. If it comes here closer to Corpus Christi, it's going to be weaker than 70 miles an hour because it'll be over land longer. If it comes ashore here closer to Sargent, say, or the Metro Houston area, kind of the western part of the Metro Houston area, then it's going to be stronger than 70 miles an hour, everything else being equal because it's just barely over land. So, the winds estimate is if it's right down the middle of the cone, and it kind of takes an average of what it could be over here or over here. That's the idea of the estimate from the National Hurricane Center. Okay, so let's see what the size of the storm is forecast to be. And if you've been watching me on these videos or on Fox Weather, you can see that the estimated size has expanded. And this graphic is designed to show you that the cone is over here, but the wind is out here. So the wind always extends well outside the cone. The cone is not an impact zone. The cone in this case, the hurricane force gusts are in that area there, and these are the hurricane force winds. If it goes right down the middle of the cone, then we would expect this to come right over Port Lavaca and Lavaca Bay and on up through there. But of course, we don't know exactly where that core is going to be. And notice that even if it goes down the middle of the cone, we have tropical storm force winds up here into the Houston metro area. That's the edge of them. So let's say gusts over 40 miles an hour expected there, but coming off the ocean, and we all know, or coming off the Gulf, we all know that winds coming off the water are immediately stronger, and then they're weaker as they get inland. So the circulation is coming around like this, and you can imagine if this whole thing is just shifted a little bit to the right, like to the right side of the cone, then the much stronger winds are over the Houston metro. If it shifted to the left, then stronger winds are over the Corpus Christi metropolitan area. So it's one way or the other makes a lot of difference, obviously, who exactly is affected to what degree, but everybody is going to feel the effects of the storm. Okay, where are the hurricane warnings now? So they've issued hurricane warnings for the band here from Sargent on down to south of Corpus. So Port Lavaca, Matagorda Bay, Aransas Bay, all under a hurricane warning. And notice that extends inland. That's if the storm is coming in this way on the right side, wherever the right side is, that's where the strongest winds are going to be, and a little bit on the left side as well, but more to the right. Right, so that's that's the highest likelihood. Then remember, this is not a super strong storm. The thinking is Category 1, maybe Category 2. I can't 100% rule out Category 3, but that seems unlikely. But with the winds coming in like this, depending on where it comes in, tropical storm warning in effect for Metro Houston, also inland, because if it comes in here, it's going to be weakening, but still tropical storm warnings for those inland counties, and tropical storm warning for extreme South Texas, because the storm might come up kind of close here and get tropical storm force winds right along the coast. But this is going to be a coastal event. You're going to know it for all of Texas. The only question is exactly where the strongest winds are going to be. And then in terms of storm surge, the storm surge warning means expect the tides to be 3 feet or more above normal high tide, and that includes Aransas Bay here, that includes Matagorda Bay, Lavaca Bay up to Port Lavaca, all these waterways here that are very susceptible to storm surge, the coastal communities that some flooded in Hurricane Alberto earlier this year. So all those areas, obviously you need to have your hurricane plan in effect and pay attention to what your local officials are telling you you're going to have to be doing in response to this storm. Now, storm surge watches are in effect here. What does a watch mean? A watch means to be ready for the possibility of the water to be 3 feet or more above high tide. So we have a forecast for up to 4 feet above high tide in Galveston Bay or somewhere in that area, but it's more a possibility there where it is a probability farther south. And then we'll see as we go through and the storm gets farther north. Let's see if they don't move that storm surge warning on farther north up toward Galveston Bay, because they already have a forecast out for 4 feet. So obviously if the threshold for the warning is 3 feet, then it's got to become a warning when the timing gets such that it's within the nominal 48-hour to 60-hour window until that storm surge would occur. So just don't get confused between the watch and the warning. That's more a timing thing. Down here in the southern part of Texas, storm surge watch there for the possibility, because the angle is not going to be the angle to create most storm surge. Storm surge is really created when the storm comes in like this, and then the water is being pushed on the right side right at the coast. That's where you get maximum storm surge. In South Texas, you're going to get a kind of a glancing blow here. So yes, some flow will come this way. You will get some water rise, but it's not going to be the full push of water because the storm is moving by kind of parallel to the coast. So just in case, they put up a storm surge watch there for just alerting people to the possibility of storm surge there in South Texas. So here's the forecast map. And what you're going to have to do is look for your exact area and zoom in on this. But the main point is what I was talking about earlier in the central part of Texas here, Port Lavaca down to Christi, Corpus Christi on up Matagorda Bay. We're talking about the maximum and up to 6 feet above normal high tide somewhere in that area is the forecast. Then as we get farther north up toward Galveston, up to 5 feet, that's up to south of Galveston Island, and then up to 4 feet in the general Houston, Galveston Bay area, up to 3 feet up the rest of the Texas coast. So the idea is that on the right side of the storm, we're going to have a pretty good push of water. Again, not a Hurricane Ike. It's not that big a storm. Not a big Hurricane Carla or something that was a giant storm and a much stronger storm. So this is a weaker storm, and these possibilities for somewhere in these zones take into account that the storm could go a little right, could go a little left. It's not just, and be a little bigger, be a little stronger. It's not just exactly what the forecast is, takes into account that uncertainty. So normally a lot of places get these alerts and get these forecasts, but then don't get it, but because the forecast is for somewhere in the zone where the up to 4 feet is. Up to 4 feet in the Galveston Bay, Bolivar Peninsula area, somewhere could get up to 4 feet. That's what that forecast means. So it's not kind of an obvious, okay, this is what they're saying is going to happen all along that coast. It's a little different kind of thing. All right, so what's going on with the storm? Well, as I'm sure you've heard if you've been following this, there's dry air that's been wrapping around the bottom half of the storm, and that's been making it slowing down the process of getting organized. Well, as we go forward in time, so here we are this afternoon, let's go forward to tomorrow, and what you see is that the moisture wraps up around the storm. So now we're in a mode where it can indeed intensify under atmospheric conditions that are conducive for that. So in this time period here tomorrow when it's, let's say, southeast of Brownsville on up to wherever it comes ashore. That's going to be very conducive to strengthening pretty quickly there. So we'll go, as you saw, the forecast is for 85, 90, 95 mile an hour storm. We'll be ready for at least a Cat 2 if it stays to the right side of the cone. All right, so here's the cone. Here are the models. Now, the models have actually shifted a little bit to the left, a little closer to Corpus, but you see that everything here is Corpus Christi and to the right. And when I show you the forecast uncertainty models, you'll see what I mean. So everything is in the cone. It's, this is the area. We know what the area that is threatened is. There's where the consensus is. The consensus is to the east of Corpus Christi, so this puts most pressure on Matagorda Bay and up in Lavaca Bay. There, Port Lavaca and surrounding areas there, Victoria, other areas around that part of Texas. And then we look at the forecast uncertainty to see where is the uncertainty in this forecast. And what you see here, it's almost all to the right of Corpus Christi. So this is the core of it. This is the most likely area here, but there's a lot of these lines that go closer to Metro Houston. That's why we want everybody in Metro Houston to be aware that Monday is going to be a disrupted day. It looks like the only question is how much disruption, and everybody there should pay attention to what the instructions are. You also see there's a tremendous difference in how fast the storm is going. So remember the dip in the jet stream we've been talking about the last few days? That's going to pick it up, and the question is how much does that pick it up? The more it picks it up, the more likely it is to go closer to Houston. The less it picks it up, the more likely it is to come closer to Corpus Christi or somewhere down the coast a little bit. So that's what the uncertainty is, and if it gets closer to Houston, it's going to be moving more quickly because it's yanked north by the jet stream that much faster. So then we also have the flood potential. As of right now, here's where we stand with this flash flood potential for tomorrow as it just begins. This would be tomorrow night. This in the dark greens here, 2 out of 4 or 2 out of 5 actually possibility, and then we have a 3 out of 5 possibility in some corridor depending on where exactly that center goes. Part of Metro Houston on up to Bryan, east of I-35 for the most part, and then moving on points north. And you folks that are well north of the Gulf Coast, you're going to deal with this too, all the way up into Little Rock, Nashville, and up that way, although the moisture will be stretched out and streaming by that time, won't be as intense as it is in Texas. Okay, I want everybody and all my friends in Texas and along the coast and Metro Houston to pay really close attention to this. Monday is the big day. Tomorrow is the intensification day, and we'll see exactly what happens with this storm. All right, good luck, everybody. Pay attention, stay aware, stay informed.